Well, here we are in Milford, Texas, and this is the Wardenclyffe Tower replica that is in Milford, Texas, about 30 miles south of Dallas. And you can see over here the tower it connects to. It's a little bit shorter and looks like a utility house here. And then you got the Tesla Tower right over here. Let's see if I can get a little closer here. So I was just followed by someone from security in the real nondescript building down the road from this Tesla Tower, and they followed me all the way out to the highway, and then they turned around and went back. So someone is definitely watching if you come around and start taking pictures there. But you can see the Tesla Tower is up on a little rise on the hill. It's like the highest point in this area, which is very flat here in Milford, Texas. But it's definitely something. It's very nondescript. I didn't see any security cameras, but obviously they were watching me, and they came after me in a white truck, a security truck, and just followed me for a few miles, and then they turned off after I started to get on the freeway. So anyway, that's from Milford, Texas, the Tesla Tower, and we got a little more information here to share with you. So here you can see the two towers that communicate with each other using the Tesla coil, and it always has a grounding point it comes into. So this may be when the house where it grounds into the earth to get the earth's energy, bringing it down from the ether, the electromagnetic frequencies from the sky. But this technology has been known for over 100 years, and here it is in Milford, Texas, being implemented and being put up. It's the first one that I think anyone has seen in the United States.
After 16 years of struggle, Tesla's doomed tower was out of time.
And even when Wardenclyffe was about to be dynamited, he even appealed to the President of the United States.
But his appeal was futile. On July 4th, 1917, the first dynamite charges were heard in the town of Shoreham. The explosive force dislodged the colossal structure from its base and afterwards sent the cupola crashing to earth. The wounded tower, still standing in fragments, would require several more attempts to finally bring it down. The landscape of Long Island would be forever altered, and the potential of the enigmatic genius's world wireless center forever untapped.
He dynamited the tower and sold it off for salvage. He got, I think, $1,500, for the lumber and the iron. He had $100,000 worth of equipment there, and Bolt just let it all go to scrap, so a lot of this stuff was lost.
I think the incompletion of the Wardenclyffe project was very much emotional for Tesla. He saw, how is it that such a good idea not come to fruition?
You see things like that and you wonder, how can humanity be so short-sighted and so stupid? But we're dealing with ignorance all the time. Schopenhauer said, against stupidity, even the gods themselves struggle in vain.
It's just a terribly tragic moment in his life and in the life of the world. We lose out.
I think without doubt that he felt that he had not only unfinished work, he had an unfinished half of his lifetime. I know this must have bothered him a great deal, in that to create some of these ideas that he had were going to take substantial amounts of money. And unfortunately, Tesla was one of the youngest and of almost the last of the independent inventors. After Tesla came corporate invention.
So here's an excellent article from 2018 in Collective Evolution. Strange-looking Tesla Tower in Texas aims to transmute electricity wirelessly. And here you can see Tesla's coil Wardenclyffe in 1901, and the one we're seeing here in Dallas, near Dallas, Texas. So this article is really good, and I'll include this in the show notes. But Michael Taylor of Visive Technologies, the company behind the tower, said, quote, "They're focusing early on in the continuous signaling, things like regional GPS, radio navigation, and broadcast signaling," end quote. The company currently has a partnership with Baylor University Research and Innovation Collaborative to help explore the applications of their technology. Note that Baylor is a Christian university. Over the last 100 years, scientists have been trying to figure out how to transport energy around the, quote, globe without cables and wires. And again, perhaps it's an ancient practice ability, but according to the website of Visive Technologies, quote, "The search is over," end quote. Although we already know this was possible. They claim Visive surface wave systems utilize a long theorized but never successfully demonstrated terrestrial electromagnetic phenomenon known as the Zenek wave, surface wave. Our surface wave technology has wide-ranging applications for communications, navigation, and energy delivery. Low-frequency surface waves can propagate around the, quote, globe from a single location with an until now unachievable efficiency. Our surface wave technology has wide-ranging applications for communication, navigation, and energy. Clean, safe, and reliable. And power will bring valuable resources to parts of the world that don't have consistent access to necessities like potable water and life-saving medical treatment, because we really care about you. Their technology is made up of a wave system that allows the Earth itself to be used for a clean, safe, and efficient transfer of power between any 2 points on the global wirelessly. These would be low-frequency waves, not like the electromagnetic frequency waves that come from 5G cell towers or wireless internet routers, for example. This technology only uses surface waves and not ground waves, which are radiated waves. The Federal Communications Commission, the Occupational Safety and Hazard, and the American Standard Institute have strict guidelines for radio frequency exposure levels. These standards have been in place for decades. Those limits are more than 10 times what will be produced by the commercial Visive surface wave systems. The transition to a, quote, global wireless system utilizing the Zenek surface wave is a breakthrough that will effectively, quote, cut the cord between power generation facilities and the local distribution grids. Now just remember that. Power generation facilities and the local distribution grids will get the cord cut. This breakthrough will significantly enhance energy surety, reliability, and resiliency in the world's electrical distribution systems. The system will use a transmitter probe. That's what this is, a transmitter probe. That's what you see in the picture, and is located near a power generation plant in order to launch the Zenek carrier wave. The receiver antenna will be placed all over the world. The wave is named after Jonathan Zenek. He was one of the first known scientists to study EMF wave propagation over the surface of the Earth. Quoting Nikola Tesla, "Many generations pass, our machinery will be driven by a power obtainable at any point in the universe. This idea is not novel. We find it in the delightful myth of Antheus, who derives power from the earth. We find it among subtle speculations of one of your splendid mathematicians. Throughout space there is energy. Is there energy static or kinetic? Kinetic. If the static, our hopes are in vain. If kinetic, and this we know it is for certain, then it is a mere question of time when men will succeed in attaching their machinery to the very wheelwork of nature." That's what's happening now with this, it appears, folks. The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all previous centuries of its existence. Nikola Tesla. So I always like to see who's behind the implementation and who put these together and who's sponsoring this. So this is Visive Technologies, powering the planet, quote, bringing light to the world. Like we don't have light now. Visive Technology is a culmination of 4 decades of research in EMF surface waves. We've assembled an experienced team of academia industry, and government to take this revolutionary science from laboratory to industry. These men and women have joined together under one calling, capitalized, to power the planet and bring light to the world. Aren't they awesome? Visiv's mission is the commercialization of Xenix surface waves. Advances are opening doors to an era of science and engineering. We got a world-class team, valuable strategic partnerships, exciting scientific breakthrough into commercial reality, meaning ching-ching, money, money, money. But look at this leadership, folks. Brigadier General, retired U.S. Air Force and CEO of President. General Miller's the CEO. The owner of multiple patents related to scientific breakthrough in energy transfer, communications, and transportation. PhD in management from Walden University. Master's in strategic studies from Air University. MBA from University of North Dakota. Bachelor's in political science from University of New Orleans. Attended the 210 Capstone General Flag Course. National Defense, Fort McNair. Blah, blah, blah. MIT fellow. Retired Air Force officer after 28 years of military service. Did this guy ever sleep? First 6 years of his career was an intercontinental ballistic missile launch officer and spent the remaining 22 years in the healthcare administration area where he directed strategic planning for 40,000 personnel with a budget of $6 billion. He was also on the Air Force corporate board where he helped develop funding strategies for AF missions and personal capabilities to meet warfighting requirements. Oh gosh, it goes on. Chief of Staff for the $150 billion Air Force Secretary and Chief of Staff, Assistant Surgeon General, Strategic Medical Plans, on and on. And you can also see his bio here. I mean, this guy, first 6 years of his career were spent in the space and missile career field. So you can see this guy is nerd upon nerd, and he is one of, I don't know how this guy ever slept, but this is the guy, the CEO of this company. And we also have, following him, is Jerry Lomax, Vice President of Business Development, Chevron Corporation. Career included international projects, engineering, upstream and midstream oil and gas operations. He was also Vice President of Emerging Technologies for Chevron. And then we have the Chief Technical Officer, who has 40 years of doctorate level academic and industrial experience in EMF, electromagnetics, remote sensing, and sensor development. And then we have another general, like we don't have enough military, executive government affairs, and he's got a whole wing. But after 9/11, his operations group deployed multiple teams that established air mobility hubs across the Middle East. He served as senior avionics manager of the C-17 aircraft prior to its first flight, meaning he was lead dog on it. He completed 2 tours of joint staff at the Pentagon and the operations logistics, was director of the All Air Force Flying and Technical Training Operations, and director of regional affairs of the Secretary of the Air Force's International Affairs. His last job of active duty was Air Force Director of the Operational Planning, Policy, and Strategy at the Pentagon. All right, so these are major brass that are running this show, folks. And here out in little Milford, Texas, they got the machine that they're rolling it out on. They're also in partnership with Baylor University, a Christian university, as I said. It's all the Roman Catholics running the show. And they are going to be doing, well, they have the angel-funded startup company with 30 full-time employees sprung among Milford, Waxahachie, and Brick locations. The company foresees doubling its workforce over the next year. History, quote, history is replete with examples of the power of the people, yeah, right, and organizations coming together to do what would be impossible individually, said the Brigadier General. Visiv's Technology's Young History is a great example of that. We're bringing power to the planet and bringing light to the world. Our collaboration with Baylor University represents the first formal academic alliance for Visiv, and we're excited to officially begin what we expect to be a long and fruitful journey together. Visiv is leasing a whole bunch of space at the Baylor Research and Innovation Collaborative, BRIC. 330,000 feet, there's your 33, facility providing companies with access to the intersection of BRIC's 5 foundational pillars: fundamental and applied research, industry collaboration, business acceleration and incubation, workforce development, and STEM educational outreach and research. The surface wave, now this is what's really important here to understand about this technology. The Xenix surface wave is unaffected by So again, this is from the IEE, the International Electronics. It's the top electronics consortium that rules over all of this. And this was a presentation that was done by the Brigadier General back in 2016 at Baylor University. And they talk about the Seneca Lake experiment of 1936. Apparently there was a crucial error in the Summerfield sign error myth, and they were able to discover the great 20th century radio propagation controversy, and that there was a flaw keeping them from being able to replicate Tesla, according to this paper. So this is quite an extensive paper with a bunch of math and code, all the nerdy stuff, but it's a very drawn out and describes the technology behind the Tesla coil and the replication of it here in Milford, Texas as well. So here is the generation and transmission of power self-sustained system, where Tesla's energy transmitter was using the stratosphere and thunders for the DC direct current. And then you can see the grounding going on, 300 feet grounding at the anchor on his coil. And then you have the Tesla receivers that will be put around the world, apparently, to bring free energy or energy transmissions all across the world. And what else do you notice here, folks? It's bouncing off the dome of the flat earth. So these are pictures I took today, again back in Milford, Texas, about 30 miles south of Dallas, Texas, and you can see the transmitter and the receiver over here and what they're doing and placing these receivers around the world. But what I found was really interesting as I was driving down on 35 South, here was Reunion Center. Look at this, the Reunion Center ball. What does that look like? Doesn't it look like a Tesla coil to you folks? And it's on the way down to Milford, Texas. I just found that just more than interesting. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. This is what we're finding out in biomagnetic subtle energy healing as well. Nikola Tesla was a healer. He had a Medtronics device that was shut down. And again, Tesla said electric power is everywhere present in unlimited quantities and can drive the world's machinery without the need of coal, oil, gas, or any other of the common fuels. And of course, the businessmen, the corporations, and the government that runs everything said we can't have free energy for the people. That would mean peace on earth. And so what did they do? They destroyed Tesla. But nevertheless, Tesla coils being resurrected here in Milford, Texas. But is there another agenda going on here? So is this new Tesla Tower going to be when they turn off our power with an EMP event from the sky, as I talked about in my previous video? And just asking the question, this is a video I did last year, will they be turning off the power in 2020 and using these Tesla devices now to power the world and having energy just for themselves, along with the Gwen towers that are being put across
that flat earth universe? And I was just directed to this document. And I believe this was from August 2018, so last month. Pence, Mr. Roman Catholic, Evangelical, Christian, Space Force will be independent service by 2020, including elite operators. Have you ever seen this guy smile? No. All right, so the Vice President of the United States, remember Dick Cheney, it's always the right-hand guy. Remember Joe Biden, the Roman Catholic, to the right of the person in power. It was Himmler next to Hitler. That's the way they roll. It's the person next to the person that's on the TV show. The Truman Show. All right, so Vice President Mike Pence announced plans to invest additional billions of dollars on top of the entire NASA and everything else program and the ISS and all that to stand up a dedicated U.S. combatant command for space, as well as an elite space operations force. Who's elite? Who's the Space Force for? It's for the elite, akin to the military's U.S. Special Operations Command. Oh, Freudian slip there. All right, the report to Congress shows Air Force will be closely involved
with elements of the development of the new Space Force. Now, is this why we see in Musk and Bezos and all these bozos launching these fake satellites into space and dumping the rockets into the Bermuda Triangle? Are they really deploying with them up into the upper ether space, if you want to call it that, these platforms that they're going to be launching? What I'm proposing now is that they're going to turn off the lights on us in 2020, and we're going to be under sun simulators, and they're testing, making areas go dark like they did up in Vancouver, Washington last month, and they also did in Siberia, where the lights went out during the day for 2 hours. I've documented it on my videos, and others have as well. So is this part of their plan? We'll see. So ultimately, the report shows a 4-star general or flag officer is naval, will exclusively lead Space Command. Exclusively. Okay? So the force will be composed of personnel from all services with experts in operations, intelligence, engineering, cyber, and other disciplines made available of leaders of combatant commands. The Pentagon must be prepared to deploy teams of space operators to Europe and the Pacific by next summer, ready to surge expertise forward in time of crisis. By next summer, space operators in Europe and the Pacific. Or specific. A Space Operations Force. Pence described plans for a space development agency that would harness innovation in the field and deter bureaucratic drag. Get rid of government, folks. We don't need them anymore. We're running the operation from space. We're going to run all of your energy from space, folks. We're going to run the Internet of Things and 5G and beam it down, folks. And we're going to run your battery-powered cars on Wi-Fi from space and be charging stations up to the space with our Tesla space shields, and you will not be able to touch us. Dominate. Remember the document Space Dominant by 2025 that was written in 1996 by the U.S. Air Force? The first step of the DoD will be establishment of the Space Development Agency. Next will be the creation of the Space Operations Force to provide expertise and surge capabilities. Remember, electronics, surgery is named after electronics. That's why they use paddles when they operate on you to surge you back to life. It's all electromagnetic frequency. Third, the Pentagon will create the structure of the Space Force. They'll make necessary changes to existing laws, and if they don't, we'll just take command. Fourth and final will be the creation of U.S. Space Command, responsible for directing the employment of the Space Force. Fourth and final, according to the report. Pence cited plans for an additional $8 billion for investment in space. $4 billion plus 8, that's $12 billion we're up to. The fiscal budget 2020 budget proposal next February. Pence's remarks in the 15-page document released by the Pentagon on Thursday left certain key questions unanswered. Meeting the ambitious timeline to create the Department of the Space Force will require an all-out effort. There is much work to do. Successful demand the best of each of you. Yay, do your part. All right, so is this feasible? Is this viable? Is this real? Abso-frickin-lutely. And here is one of the companies based in Manhattan Beach, Solarin Corp. Announces the next phase of their space solar development. Develop and optimize space-qualified power components and measure power subsystems performance. Perform SSP plant system designs, optimize the SSP plant design, and then generate design requirements. This is back in 2016. Solar has engineered zero-emission electricity from space that is cost competitive with any terrestrial source of baseload activity. What did Jerry Moonbeam Brown do here in California last week? He says he's going to be monitoring pollution from space. See how it all ties in together, folks? Headquartered in Manhattan Beach, it's an energy and aerospace company that is principally engaged in the research, design, development, integration, and operations of space solar power plants and the sale of clean baseload space solar electricity. Remember all the causes we're having as far as anthropogenic pollutions. Here's the electricity sales group they have. They're very well established. And also, we want to look at who's patented here. Well, look at, they have patents with Canada, China. Remember, they're going into Europe. They want to be in Europe by next year. Russia, United States, Federation of Russia, Japan. So they have them all lined up as well. Here's how it works. Solar power satellites, quote unquote. The sun goes through the solar power into the solar arrays, into electricity, into the radio frequency array antennas, think lasers, and then they get their RF power, and then they beam it down to the solar collectives. We see those big solar collectives. The movie Blade Runner 2049 shows California being run by solar collectives, beamed from space, and then we have the electricity being distributed through the distributed energy. Here's a picture of how they plan to do it. Are they going to be enacting it by 2020? Well, that's what I'm projecting here, and this is what I'm trying to get people to awake. And then let's look at the the leadership on their company. And here we see all these guys on here are all, you look at the key advisors, and what you'll see is they're all very high powered in all the different branches that are necessary to carry this out. And one of their key advisors, former chairman of Comcast Corporation, former chairman of AT&T, Hughes Electronics, IBM, chairman of the board of IBM World Trade Corporation. Chairmans, folks. These aren't just little guys. These are the chairmans. Bruce Wilson, 26 years in the banking industry, president, chief operating officer of Home Savings of America. Richard Covey, former CEO of United Space Alliance, president of Boeing Service Company in Colorado Springs. He was awarded NASA Distinguished Public Service Medal as well. Michael Peavy has worked in all facets of the California Energies, former president of California's most powerful energy regulator agency, the California Public Utilities Commission. I could go on and on here. And anyway, it goes on and on. They're all connected. And all the machinations and all the technology that's been developed, what I try and remind people is that if they were able into 1995 to enter 94 to introduce the internet, first URL was Netscape in 1995. The technology existed to beam up to us now at 30,000 feet, traveling at 500 miles an hour in an airplane. They can find our IP address. We can download or upload with wireless connections. What do you think the military has had for 25 to 50 years, or go back 100 years to free energy, Nikola Tesla? Well, here they have what's called nanotubes using nanoparticulate matters to build resupplying stations up to their space platforms that will be driving the energy platforms that are going to be beamed down into space. You can kind of see a picture here being beamed down as well. These tubes go up, and this is part of the cloaking devices that are being used now in many of the machinations that we've been seeing the intensity of the geoengineering and chemtrails going on. But this is real. This is real technology, carbon nanotubes. They're suppliers and feeder tubes to the platforms up above to resupply them with the technology they need to keep them going. So are they going to use 2020 to turn the lights off on anybody and do what they proposed in the movie America? Amerika came out in 1987 when an EMP event, electromagnetic pulse event, took out the power, where this was an ABC miniseries that lasted for 7 days, 2 hours a night. Costliest ABC miniseries back in 1987, when 7 nights in a row over 14 hours. America, it's on YouTube. I suggest you highly watch it. The whole story is about 10 years after the Russians have taken over the United States, divided it into 13 different collectives, just like there's 13 different FEMA areas in the United States, and they turned off the power. It was electrical grid EMP, electromagnetic pulse event, that was never fully repaired. They turned off the people in the United States, and when they turned them back on, we were under communist rule, is what this movie is about. Is that what's going to be happening? Is that how they're predictive programming? They plan in very long terms, folks. I would not dismiss this. But let's look at the astrology of it all. All right, and just to give you a little more idea who Tesla was and his inventions, Tesla had patents on alternating current, including the polyphase system, electric motor, radio, and the Tesla coil. Major contributions in establishing radar, remote control, robotics, and adding to the expansion of theoretical physics and nuclear physics. His invention included the AC hydroelectric power system, fluorescent lighting, and wireless communications, folks. 1900. We're talking right around the 1900s. He got into it with Edison, who was working for Edison. Edison refused to pay Tesla the money he owed him, so Tesla resigned. Thomas Edison, his major rival was George Westinghouse. Tesla ended up partnering with him. Here you can see Wardenclyffe Tower and the alternating currents. Tesla had that same year made patents on electromagnetic motor, alternating electric current generator, and electric incandescent lamp. Tesla created the Houston Street Laboratory in New York City on Houston Street. In 1891, he was experimenting on his electromechanical oscillators to generate a resonance frequency. The result caused a small earthquake. What are we seeing in California today? With only the surrounding building shaking. He generated a resonance of several buildings nearly a block long, causing complaints for the police to investigate. It began to shake uncontrollably. Realizing the danger, he had no option but to hit the machine with a sledgehammer to end the wayward experiment just as the police arrived. People today have tried to recreate this effect. Well, are they doing that in California now with these supposed earthquakes that are happening? So at the World's Fair in 1893 in Chicago, Tesla and Westinghouse successfully demonstrated to visitors alternating current power could illuminate the exposition. Among the electrical exhibits were Tesla's fluorescent lamps and impressing everyone on lighting lamps which had no wires connected to them, showing how electrical power could easily be transmuted through the air, wireless energy. Within 3 years, Tesla had some 40 patents on electrical power system had sold some 40 patents on electrical system power to Westinghouse. Together they used AC power system to harness the energy of Niagara Falls into electricity. Tesla was an environmentalist, and this fit right into his clean energy idea. Nothing was cleaner and freer than using hydroelectric power that was non-polluting and renewable. Greatly respected now as a pioneer of his time, Tesla kept busy with more inventions and spending time with friends like Mark Twain. As an example of Tesla's vision of free power for all and less greed, in 1897, Westinghouse was going bankrupt, having spent so much money trying to beat Edison. Tesla decided to break the contract with Westinghouse and give up his patent royalties, in effect saving the company from going under. There was a fatal flaw for Tesla, not being a very good businessman. He could have been a billionaire with his patent rights. By 1899, Tesla constructed a new laboratory in Colorado Springs to do research on ways to transmit electrical power and wireless energy over long distances. He made lightning bolts flash 100 feet in the air from his 142-foot metal mast supporting a large copper ball within the tower. Tesla wanted to prove that he could send a beam of power across to the other side of the world. Moving back to New York in 1900, Tesla began work on the Wardenclyffe Towers. The Wardenclyffe Tower is located in Long Island. The 187th tower was designed by architect Stanford White and funded by Morgan, the wealthy industrialist. In 1917, the United States government gave orders to destroy Wardenclyffe Tower, claiming to prevent its use by foreign agents. The tower was to be scrapped and dismantled. This devastated Tesla, but again he rebuilt in Long Island. This was a more advanced machine than Wardenclyffe and proved some of Tesla's theories, but again the facility was seized and torn down by the Marines because it was suspected that it could be used for German spies. While Rockefeller and his Chevron Oil of New Jersey was giving the Messerschmitt the no-knock fuel so that World War II could continue later on. This makes very clear the U.S. government was very much aware of Nikola Tesla's viable and dangerous work.